Next on Worcester News Tonight, following Monday's ice rescue in Westboro, Mass Wildlife is reminding people to take proper precautions on the ice. Plus, how the government shutdown is affecting SNAP recipients and what's happening to make sure food will be on their tables next month. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Botari. Mass Wildlife is reminding residents to take the proper precautions before heading out on the ice. Monday, a 19-year-old was skating with a friend and broke through Westboro's Mill Pond. The teen spent more than 10 minutes in the water and is expected to be okay. But experts want the public to know the results can be much worse. Our Cam Jandro is live in Worcester tonight with the details. Cam?
Anna, you can see here in the city of Worcester signs warning people about the thin ice here at Indian Lake. Mass Wildlife is warning people if you do go outside onto the ice, make sure you have an ice pick of some sort if you fall in, have a life preserver, and always a cell phone, because yesterday's ice rescue in Westboro is not always how that situation ends.
Changing temperatures can make for dangerous conditions on the lakes and ponds in central Massachusetts.
The weather's been really unpredictable. It's been really warm on some days and really cold on others, and I think it's safe to say that the ice is also unpredictable, so you really have to take precautions.
Monday, a 19-year-old fell through the ice on Westboro's Mill Pond. Jim Legacy is the angler education coordinator with Mass Wildlife and has decades of experience on ice. He says if you do fall through, stay calm.
And if you go in, you don't panic. Your clothes will give you buoyancy. So then you get yourself out or you yell.
Mass Wildlife hosts numerous events like ice fishing derbies and teach ice safety throughout the winter. Legacy says he does not recommend going on any ice unless you have the proper tools.
Yesterday I would have said I would have gone out skating myself, but I would have had a chisel or a drill and checked it every few feet out and made sure it's at least 4 or 5 inches.
Mass Wildlife also examines the type of ice. The newer the better. Avoid bodies of water with currents or streams. And Legacy says all should remember this statement: all ice is not created equal.
So you can get that honeycombed, freeze-thaw ice that's kind of white, and it can be thick. It can be a foot or more thick, but a lot of times it's really not dense, and you can go through that.
Now, Mass Wildlife says if you are going out by yourself, you're looking for about 3+ inches of ice. If you're going out with a group of people, no less than 5 inches to ensure that going out onto the ice is relatively safe. For a full list of their ice safety tips, you can go to Mass Wildlife's website. Live in Worcester tonight, I'm Cam Jandro, Worcester News Tonight.
Worcester's Division of Public Health has received a grant of more than $700,000 to help people impacted by opioid crisis. The grant was awarded by the United States Department of Justice and will provide services for child victims of the opioid crisis. The city says more than 1,500 incidents with a Class A substance mentions the State Department of Children and Families in the police report, making up 43% of the city's total Class A cases. The grant will focus on kids under the age of 10 and will give a total of $744,000. The grant is a multidisciplinary partnership which will focus on first responders, child welfare providers, public schools, and health and social services providers. The Worcester County Food Bank talked strategy with other organizations around Massachusetts this week. They discussed the potential impacts of the partial government shutdown. What we're learning today, a federal agency is moving to make sure people who depend on SNAP benefits will be taken care of for the next month. Our Rosalind Flaherty has the details.
Day 25 of the partial government shutdown has some federal agencies thinking ahead. The Department of Transitional Assistance will issue SNAP benefits for February in the next few days, since future funding is uncertain.
The funding is available now. The people are working in the offices who can do this work, and they say, let's get ahead of it.
Jean McMurray is the executive director of the Worcester County Food Bank. She says the food bank is not seeing any impact right now, but they are monitoring the situation since 1/3 of the food they distribute comes from the USDA.
We are going to be thinking about what options we have, what contingency plans that we can make.
Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito says the shutdown is troubling and challenging.
We're hearing from a number of employees who are furloughed or contracted for in terms of the services they provide, and some of them are wondering what will happen when their paychecks stop, and that's happening in some places already.
She says Washington needs to find common ground.
For us in Massachusetts, we find a way to collaborate, find common ground. You don't always agree, but if you can find a place of resolution, then you're doing your job for the people.
Meanwhile, McMurray says although it's a stressful time, she doesn't want the more than 7,000 Massachusetts residents who benefit from SNAP to panic.
Lots of folks that receive SNAP benefits also go to food pantries, so we want them to know you have your SNAP benefit.
Rosalind Flaherty, Worcester News Tonight.
The impact of the partial government shutdown now in its 25th day. At two of the country's busiest airports, security checkpoints are closed as more and more TSA agents working without pay call out sick. Air traffic controllers also working without pay are now demanding a paycheck. But it's not just the airports feeling the pressure. The FDA ordered hundreds of inspectors back on the job with no pay to continue food inspections. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation held a meeting in Auburn tonight to discuss its plans to replace a Mass Pike bridge they say is structurally deficient. The bridge, built in 1955, is above Route 12 at Exit 10 off the Turnpike. It currently has one lane in each direction. Mass DOT says the proposed $9.3 million project would not only replace the bridge, but it would also improve traffic flow in the area.
The bridge itself, we're actually, by adding a couple of feet in width, we're able to rearrange it a bit so that we can get an extra lane of traffic that will relieve a lot of the flow. In addition, we're also reconfiguring some of the on-ramps so that there's better sight distance and people don't have to look so far over their shoulder to merge.
The bridge itself they'll be adding a couple of feet in width so they can rearrange it a bit so they can get an extra lane of traffic that will relieve a lot of traffic flow. Well, a Spencer man will be tried for murder. He spent years in a state hospital since he was deemed mentally incompetent to stand trial. Bridgewater State Hospital recently found 44-year-old Jason Masiello competent. He's accused of slashing his 88-year-old stepfather's throat, wrapping the body in a plastic bag, and placing it under their Spencer home. During a 2013 competency hearing, a forensic psychologist said Masiello was suffering from either a delusional disorder or schizophrenia, but it was possible he could be restored to competency with medication. His case was continued to March 1st. Police officers can detect drunk driving with alcohol levels and field sobriety tests, but finding out if someone's operating under the influence of marijuana isn't as easy. Monday, the state's highest court ruled drivers can now be arrested on drug driving charges based solely on a police officer's observations. While the drug is legal in the state, Webster Police Chief Michael Shaw says there are new concerns about public safety in driving, and this ruling is a step in the right direction.
Good to see that in writing somewhere to give us some direction. Like I say, it's a step in the right direction. We still have a long ways to go with this topic because it's so new and it's growing so fast in the state that, you know, we have our work cut out for us, but it's good to see this at least going in the right direction for us.
According to the Supreme Judicial Court, if based on officers' observations, there are clear signs of impairment to the driver and the car smells like marijuana, they have the right to place you under arrest. If you're planning to make the trip to Kansas City this weekend to watch the Patriots take on the Chiefs, travel agencies in central Massachusetts say you're not alone. AAA in Worcester says calls have been coming in since the Patriots' victory on Sunday. AAA is offering a game day package, which includes tickets, hotel accommodations, and tailgating for $745. But if you're looking to fly to the game, it could potentially more than double the price of your trip. Travel agent Linda Burke says round-trip airfare starts in the $700 range and goes up from there. While driving may be cheaper, you'd be looking at a long journey.
Probably assume that it would be a little bit less money to drive, but you also need the time. If you have to take time off from work, then you're losing there. Myself personally, I would just fly in and fly out, but then you have to be aware, and with the shutdown, to be very aware. The airlines now are having issues, so you need to get there earlier. A domestic flight, normally we're there an hour earlier. Now it's earlier than that due to the shutdown.
Burke says if you are making the trip to Kansas City early, there's plenty of restaurants, museums, and nightlife to enjoy. An advanced manufacturing training initiative is set to help more workers enter the field. New funding for Quinsigamond Community College in Worcester will help its technology labs give students the tools they need to learn new skills. Our Chandler Walsh has more.
Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito tries her hand at using a robotic arm. It was made by students at Quinsigamond Community College in their technology labs.
They're getting skills in electronics, they're getting skills in robotics, they're getting skills in fixing equipment, but also how to program the equipment.
The college is one of 140 organizations and institutions who will benefit from state funding announced Tuesday. The state is providing $2.5 million for advanced manufacturing training. The money will be used to connect unemployed and underemployed people with manufacturing jobs.
It is all about having talent and pipeline of skilled workers that can attach to these jobs.
The state says the grants will fill the skills gap between jobs and applicants. Manufacturing makes up 10% of the state's economy.
These are really good paying jobs, really meaningful jobs to grow the manufacturing economy in Massachusetts.
Kinefac Corporation in Worcester says it can be difficult replacing employees who've retired, and the funding will help.
There are good jobs at all levels of manufacturing, at really good wages and upward mobility. Anything we can do to attract more people is great, but then to also give them the skills to succeed in the industry, that's a winning combination.
QCC is one place people will be trained for these jobs. President Luis Pedraja says students learn skills in areas like robotics, lasers, and computers.
We're trying to teach our students and train them for the works of and the workforce and the profession of tomorrow. I think that's critical for the future of the Commonwealth.
And the $2.5 million in grants will train about 700 more people for an advanced manufacturing job. At Quinsigamond Community College, Chandler Walsh, Worcester News Tonight.
There's a lot of buzz around a Table Talk Pie's Twitter account. The funny thing about it, other than the tweets, is the company doesn't know who's actually behind it. Table Talk Pie's retail store manager, Caitlin Enck, was encouraged by her friend Ricky Nelson to put the famous Worcester pie maker on social media. After doing some research, Nelson discovered someone else had already been running a Twitter account using the company's name.
Screenshot all of them and send them over to Caitlin, try to figure out why are you talking like this, and realize it wasn't her doing it. And after a while, so then I scrolled through and looked at all the other old ones and realized this is probably the greatest account on Twitter. It's awesome.
Enck says the account's interesting and people think it's funny. Their search to find out who's doing it has come up empty, so she says they're embracing it.
We haven't hurt anybody, they're not offensive, and they're honestly hilarious. So we tried to find out who it was, we weren't successful because they're not doing anything wrong, and technically we don't own that Twitter handle. Twitter wasn't really able to do anything.
Enck and Nelson say they had their suspicions, but say they're not mad and the person's not in trouble. They just want to know who it is.